So good morning, everyone. Today's topic is about a national health program, that is NBBDCP. Okay. NBBDCP stands for National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program. So I'm Dr. Arul, Assistant Professor from Department of Community Medicine, SLIMS, Puducherry. So let's go to the topic proper. So today's presentation will be, I will start with the introduction, then the strategies under this program, that is NBBDCP program, then prevention and control strategies for various vector-borne diseases like malaria, filaria, Kala-Azar, Japanese encephalitis, dengue and chikungunya fever, and a few things about the critical review of this program. So what are vector-borne diseases? Okay, vector-borne diseases, mainly they are the major public health problems in India as well as throughout the world. So they are complex in nature. Their presence depends upon the various factors like biological factors, social factors, economical factors, and ecological factors. So this National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program is one of the most comprehensive program, and it is multifaceted. It has various phases of activities in the country. So it is mainly concerned with prevention and control of few vector-borne diseases, namely the malaria, filaria, Kala-Azar, Japanese encephalitis, dengue, and chikungunya. So malaria, filaria, Kala-Azar, Japanese encephalitis, dengue, and chikungunya fever. So these 6 diseases are the main focus of attention by this program. That is the NBBDCP program. Fine. So what are the strategies? So there are 3 strategies for this program. One is disease management. So how they are going to manage the diseases of malaria or filaria whatsoever. So disease management by means of early case detection and complete treatment of that particular case, and mainly by strengthening the referral services. If a particular malaria case is identified in a subcenter or in a primary health center, there should be proper referral services for that patient. Only then the disease can be managed effectively. Next is epidemic preparedness and rapid response. So how this epidemic preparedness can be made by means of doing a continuous surveillance activities. Okay. So if there is epidemic of malaria, if there is epidemic of dengue outbreak, so there should be a immediate rapid response team to handle that situation. So this is called as epidemic preparedness and rapid response. So what is the next strategy then? So we have something called as integrated vector management. So integrated vector management is a combination of 2 or more techniques in order to control the vector. Okay. So we have something called as entomological surveillance. So surveillance of the larvae or adult mosquitoes will be done in a periodic intervals to identify the presence of the viruses in the vectors. Okay. So this is called as entomological surveillance. So if they found any outbreak, or if they found the circulation of the virus in the vectors, they will do or initiate the anti-larval measures and anti-adult measures. Okay. So also personal protective measures is also important. So next is supportive interventions. Supportive interventions includes a behavior change communication, intersectoral coordination, public-private partnership, and doing operational research in order to promote the promote the activities of the program. So next is monitoring and evaluation. So all these are the strategies of the National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program. So now let's see about each of the diseases. Like now we'll concentrate on malaria. So malaria, you all know that it is a life-threatening parasitic disease caused by Plasmodium species. So Plasmodium species, we have Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium malaria, and Plasmodium bovium. So these are the 4 basic species of Plasmodiums. So it is transmitted by the infective bite of Anopheles mosquito. Okay. So incubation period is nearly 10 to 14 days. The man develops the diseases. So there are 2 types of parasites of human malaria. One is Plasmodium vivax. The next common is a Plasmodium falciparum. So these 2 species are frequently reported from India. Okay. So the out of which is the most deadliest form, if you see, the Plasmodium falciparum disease is the most serious and most deadliest form of infection of malaria. Okay. So how this malaria control program has evolved in India? So it was first started by the Bore Committee report in the year 1946. So next came the proper program in the year 1953, that is the National Malaria Control Program. And then the program was renamed in various years, like National Malaria Eradication Program in the year 1958. Then Urban Malaria Scheme was introduced in the year 1971. Modified Plan of Operation was done in 1977. Then we have Malaria Action Program in 1995, Enhanced Malaria Control Program in 1997, National Anti-Malaria Program in 1999, and NBBDCP program in 2004. So what is the national framework for malaria elimination in India 2016 to 2030? So this was in line with WHO Global Technical Strategy for Malaria, that is 2016-2030, and the Asia Pacific Leaders Malaria Alliance Malaria Elimination Roadmap. So what is the vision of this framework is to eliminate malaria nationally and contribute to improved health, quality of life, and alleviation of poverty. The goals of this framework is to eliminate malaria, that is, there should be zero indigenous cases throughout the entire country by the year 2030, and maintain the malaria-free status in areas where malaria transmission has been interrupted and to prevent the reintroduction of the malaria. So it has 4 objectives. So first objective is to eliminate malaria from all 26 low and moderate transmission states or union territories by the year 2022. So this is the first objective. Second objective is to reduce the incidence of malaria to less than 1 case per 1,000 population per year in all the states and union territories and their districts by the year 2024. Okay. So next is interrupt the indigenous transmission of malaria throughout the entire country, including all the high transmission states, union territories by 2027. The last objective is to prevent the re-establishment of local transmission of malaria in areas where it has been eliminated and maintain the national malaria-free status by 2030 and beyond. So these are this framework has all these 4 objectives. So we have seen the states, right? Previously, we saw various categories. So what are these categories basically? So categories of states and union territories based on the annual parasite index, that is called API. Okay. So what is category 0? So category 0 is prevention of re-establishment phase. So the definition for this is the states or union territories with 0 indigenous cases of malaria. So here the activity should be mainly the prevention of re-establishment of the disease. Okay. Next is category 1. So category 1 is elimination phase. So which are the elimination phase? The states or union territories, including their districts, which are reporting an API of less than 1 case per 1,000 population at risk. Okay. So next is category 2. Category 2, the category belongs to pre-elimination phase. So what is this pre-elimination phase? States or union territories with an API of less than 1 case per 1,000 population at risk, but some of their districts are reporting an API of 1 case per 1,000 population at risk or above. Okay. So this is pre-elimination phase. Next is category 3, wherein the states or UTs with an API of 1 case per 1,000 population at risk or above. Okay. So here we should do intensified control activities. So this is how states or union territories are classified based on the API. So what are the strategic approaches they follow? Okay. So one is program phasing. So malaria elimination in India will be carried out in a phased manner because various parts of the country have, the different endemic rates for malaria. Okay. So the malaria elimination will be done in a phased manner throughout the country. So district will be the unit of planning and implementation. So apart from the category to which they belong, whether they belong to category 0 or category 1 or 3 or 4, each state or UT will be advised to further classify their districts. Okay. So district will be the unit of planning and implementation of the malaria control activities. So next is focus should be made mainly on the high transmission areas like northeastern states, especially like Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Tripura, and Meghalaya. So these are the high transmission areas where the focus or the attention should be focused on, right? Okay. So next is special strategy for Plasmodium vivax elimination. So according to World Malaria Report 2015, more than 80% of the Plasmodium vivax burden is contributed by only 3 countries. Among the 3 countries, one country is India. So special strategy should be done for Plasmodium vivax elimination as well. Okay. So what are the milestones and targets? So by the end of 2016, all the states and union territories have included malaria elimination in their broader health policies and the frameworks. Okay. So by 2020, transmission of malaria interrupted and zero indigenous cases and deaths due to malaria attained in all 15 states and union territories under category 1 in 2014. 2014 will be the base year. Okay. So all 11 states or union territories under category 2 in 2014 should enter into category 1, and 5 states and union territories under category 3 in 2014 should enter into category 2, and 5 states and union territories under category 3 in 2014 reduce the malaria transmission but continue to remain in the category 3. An estimated reduction in malaria of 15 to 20% at national level compared with 2014. And again, by 2022, we have this, the criteria. Okay. And by 2024, all the states and union territories and their respective districts to reduce the API to less than 1 case per 1,000 population at risk and sustain zero deaths due to malaria while maintaining fully functional malaria surveillance activities to track the disease, to investigate and respond to each case throughout the country. The transmission of malaria interrupted and zero indigenous cases and deaths due to malaria attained in all the 31 states and union territories. 5 states and UTs, which were under category 3 in 2014, enter into the elimination phase. So by 2027, indigenous transmission of malaria should be interrupted. By 2030, re-establishment of local transmission prevented areas where malaria has been eliminated. So these are the various targets at various phases of years. Okay. So next is key interventions, another category, that is the intensified control phase. So what we do to control the malaria intensity. So massive scaling up of existing disease management and preventive approaches and tools. Screening of all the fever cases suspected for malaria. Classification of areas as per the local malaria epidemiology and grading of areas as per the risk of malaria transmission, followed by implementation of the interventions. Strengthening the intersectoral collaborations. Special interventions for high-risk groups such as tribal populations and populations residing in conflict-affected or hard-to-reach areas. Mobile clinics on fixed days in tribal or conflict-affected areas. And timely referral and treatment of severe malaria cases to reduce malaria-related mortalities. Okay. And remaining things are strengthening all the district and sub-district hospitals as per the IPHS standards, maintaining the optimal level of surveillance activities, and equipping all the health institutions with the facilities to manage malaria, like microscopic facilities or rapid diagnostic kits for emergency use or injectable artesunate combination therapies for the treatment of severe malaria. Okay. So what are the interventions or activities under the category 2, that is the pre-elimination phase districts or states. So states which UTs which are in the pre-elimination phase are those close to entering into the elimination phase, right? So therefore, malaria elimination interventions will be introduced in this states. And category 1 is elimination phase. So all effects will be directed here at interrupting the local transmission of active malaria. Mandatory notification of each case of malaria should be done in private sector as well as in any other healthcare facility. Okay. So here what they do is case-based surveillance. Even if one case is reported, they will do adequate case-based surveillance and complete case management will be done. An investigation and classification of all foci of malaria also will be done here in the elimination phase. A strict total coverage of all active foci by effective vector control measures will be done in if at all a case has been an outbreak of case of malaria has occurred in a particular district or UT or state. Early detection and treatment of all cases of malaria by means of active or passive case detection. So these are the activities which are done in category 1. So next is state and national level malaria elimination database established and it is operational. Implementation of interventions for effective screening, management, and prevention of malaria among mobile and migrant populations. Establishment of an effective epidemic forecasting and response system. Ensuring rigorous quality assurance of all medicines and diagnostics, setting up a national level reference laboratories. All suspected cases of malaria are to be screened for malaria. Surveillance of special groups, migrant populations, or populations residing in a vicinity of industrial areas. Next is category 0. So that is a prevention of re-establishment phase. So here we should detect any reintroduced case of malaria. And if at all any detected, it should be notified immediately all the detected cases of malaria. And what is you should determine the underlying causes of resumed local transmission and rapidly apply the preventive measures as well as the curative measures for the cases. Okay. And to maintain, you have to prevent the reintroduction of malaria transmission and to maintain the malaria-free status in those areas. So next, so for malaria is over. We saw about the categorization of the states and union territories and their the intervention strategies under these each of these category states. Fine. So next we'll go to filariasis. So filariasis, it was a global problem, almost affecting over 83 countries. Okay, so about 95% cases of the lymphatic filariasis are caused by Oscillariae bancrofti, and other parasites include Brugia malayi and Brugia tempo. Okay, so nearly 600 million people are at risk of lymphatic filariasis infection in nearly 250 endemic districts in 20 states or union territories of India. Okay, so Bancroftian filariasis is widely distributed, while the Brugian filariasis caused by Brugia malayi is restricted only to 6 states. Okay, like UP, Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala, Gujarat. Okay, so these are the states wherein the Brugia malayi is widely prevalent. So let's see about the National Filariasis Control Program. Okay, so this program was started in 1955. In 1962, what happened was a strategy was revised due to non-cooperation of people because of the side effect of the DEC, okay, diethyl carbamazine, and development of resistance to the insecticides by the vectors. So the strategy was revised again. In 1978, the operational component was merged with urban malaria scheme for utilizing the available resources. In 1997, India became signatory to WHO for global elimination of lymphatic filariasis and the target for global elimination by 2020. Okay, in 2003-2004, it was merged with the National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program. So now let's see about what is elimination of lymphatic filariasis. So that is a definition for elimination of lymphatic filariasis. Definition is the cases, lymphatic filariasis cases should be ceased to be a public health problem when the number of microfilaria carriers, okay, is less than 1%, and children born after initiation of elimination of lymphatic filariasis are free from circulating antigenemia. Okay, antigenemia means there should be presence of adult filarial bone in the human body. So only then, if this criteria is satisfied, we can call that a particular country or a state is eliminated of lymphatic filariasis. Okay. So what does it target? To cover all the eligible population living in all, presently 255 districts, lymphatic filariasis endemic districts during the mass drug administration. Okay. To line list the cases of lymphedema and hydrocele in all the districts and augment home-based morbidity management and hydrocele operations in identified districts or community health centers. So what is the objective of this program? To progressively reduce and ultimately interrupt the transmission of lymphatic filariasis, prevent and reduce disability among the affected persons through disability alleviation and morbidity management. To eliminate lymphatic filariasis, WHO recommends a combination of two medicines. One is, that is called as mass drug administration. So this involves mainly 4 steps. So first is mapping. Next is mass drug administration. So next is post MDA surveillance. Okay, post MDA surveillance, and next is verification of elimination of transmission. So first mapping. So what do you do in mapping? That is nothing but geographical distribution of diseases mapped first. So next is a mass drug administration, wherein for 5 years or more to reduce the number of parasites in the blood to levels that will prevent mosquito vectors from transmitting the infection. So next is post MDA surveillance. After MDA is discontinued, surveillance is done. Finally, we have the verification of elimination of transmission. Okay. So what is the strategy here? So here the mass drug administration involves single dose of diethyl carbamazine. Okay, the dose is 6 milligram per kg body weight for consecutive 5 to 7 years. Okay, to interrupt the transmission of the disease because the lifespan of the adult worm is 5 to 7 years. Next is intensive IEC activities for individual or community-based preventive and protective measures for filaria control. So IEC also directed at self-care of affected parts and early seeking of the care. So next is intensive vector control measures like integrated vector control activities. So along with the DEC, albendazole is also given to the population at risk since 2007. So what is this MDA? MDA is nothing but mass drug administration. So concept of MDA is to approach every individual in the target community and administer single dose of antifilaria drugs like DEC and albendazole, except pregnant women, children below 2 years of age, and people who are very sick from other illnesses. So this annual dose is to be repeated every year for the period of 5 years or more, aiming at minimum 85% of the actual drug compliance. Okay. The recommended approach based on the past experience is supervised drug administration by door-to-door visit, supplemented with drug administration at booths as well as in the groups, preferably on a single day with a 2-day mopping up operations instead of mere distribution of drugs. So what is this mopping up? Mopping up is nothing but daily visit to the area for 2 days following the MDA to cover the absentees. If any case with side effects is there, provide them with symptomatic treatment. If any case requires hospital admission, report to the village health nurse or rapid response teams. So record on the number of people covered daily. So mopping up activities ensures that nearly the coverage, 85% of the compliance with drugs is done. Okay. So here, the dose for DEC and albendazole is given separately based on the age criteria: less than 2 years, 2 to 5 years, 6 to 14 years, and 15 years, and so for filaria, we have some parasitological indices like microfilaria rate, that is percentage of persons showing microfilaria in their peripheral blood sample population. Next is filarial endemicity rate, that is percentage of persons examined showing microfilaria in the blood or disease manifestation or both. Next is microfilaria density, number of microfilaria per unit volume of blood in samples from individual persons. Next is average infestation rate, that is average number of microfilaria per positive slide. Okay. So these are the indices, that is microfilaria rate, filarial endemicity rate, microfilaria density, and average infestation rate. Okay. And also we have entomological indices like vector density per 10 man-harvest catch, percentage of mosquitoes who are positive for all stages of development of the pathogen, percentage of the mosquitoes who are positive for infective larvae, and types of breeding places. So these are entomological indices. So that's all about the filarial program. Now we'll move on to the third disease, that is Kala Azar. Kala Azar is a slow progressing disease which is caused by protozoa, that is Leishmania, Leishmania donovan. So in India, Leishmania donovan is a 1D parasite which is causing this disease. This parasite mainly infects the reticuloendothelial system (RES) and may be found in abundance in the bone marrow, spleen, as well as in the liver. Okay, so there is a condition called as the PKDL, that is post Kala-Azar dermal leishmaniasis. Is a condition where the parasite invades the skin cells, resides and develops there, and manifests as a local dermal lesion. So what is the goal of this program? National Kala Azar Elimination Program is that to improve the health status of the vulnerable groups and at risk of population living in Kala Azar endemic areas by elimination of Kala Azar. Okay, the target is to reduce the Kala Azar incidence less than 1 per 10,000 population at the block PHC level. So what are the objectives of this program? To reduce the incidence of Kala Azar, reduce the case fatality rate due to Kala Azar, treatment of PKDL to reduce parasite reservoir, prevention and treatment of Kala Azar HIV TB co-infections. Okay. So what are the strategies for elimination is that early diagnosis and pre-treatment, integrated vector control activities including the indoor residual spraying, surveillance activities, capacity building activities, program management, and ACSM, that is advocacy, communication, and social mobilization for behavioral impact and intersectoral coordination, supervision, monitoring, and evaluation. So these are the strategies for elimination of Kala Azar. So how we will early diagnose and complete treatment is given for Kala Azar patients. Okay, that should be a standard case definition for early diagnosis, right? So for standard case definition, we should have a suspected case. Okay, so who is a suspected case? Any patient with history of fever of more than 2 weeks with splenomegaly or hepatomegaly, not responding to anti-malarial and antibiotics in a patient from an endemic area is a suspected case of Kala Azar. Or a patient with above symptoms who are clinically examined by a doctor and found positive on screening with a rapid diagnostic test. Or in cases with past history of Kala Azar or in those with high suspicion of Kala Azar but with negative RDT result but found positive by examination of bone marrow or spleen aspirate for Leishmanian donor antibodies at appropriate level, that is at the district hospital. So these are the three various case definitions for a suspect case of Kala Azar. Okay. So what is the treatment? So the dosage schedule is after enrollment. The drug which is called as miltefosine, oral miltefosine treatment is administered as per the following schedule. Okay. If the adult is more than 12 years and weighing more than 25 kg, 100 mg of miltefosine daily, one capsule is given in the morning and one capsule in the evening. After meals for 12 weeks should be given. For adults who are weighing less than 25 kg, 50 milligram of miltefosine daily, one capsule in the morning after meals for 12 weeks is given. Okay. If it is children aged 2 to 11 years, the dosage is 2.5 mg per kg body weight once daily after meals for 12 weeks. So invariably, for all the age group, the duration of treatment is extending for 12 weeks. Okay. Only the dose differs with, depending upon the weight and age of the patients. All right. So now we'll move on to the next fourth disease, that is the Japanese encephalitis. Okay. So Japanese encephalitis is basically a zoonotic disease and it is caused by group B arbovirus, okay, and transmitted by the Culex mosquitoes. It is nearly endemic in 204 districts, of which Assam, Bihar, Tamil Nadu, UP, and West Bengal have been reporting outbreaks then and there. So this disease was included under the NBBDCP program in the year 2003 and 4. And during 2015, what happened was more than 8,000 acute encephalitis syndrome cases, including the JE, and more than 1,000 deaths have been reported. Okay, so this program mainly depends upon the convergence of other ministries for its control activities. So what are the ministries like Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Drinking Water Sanitation Ministries, Social Justice and Empowerment, Women and Child Development Ministries, Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation, and Human Resource Development. So its goal is to reduce the morbidity, mortality, and disability in children due to the Japanese encephalitis or acute encephalitis syndrome. So the objectives of this program is to strengthen and expand the JE vaccination in affected sub-districts or districts, to strengthen the surveillance and vector control activities, to increase safe drinking water and proper sanitation facilities in affected rural and urban areas, to estimate the disability burden due to JE or AES, and to provide adequate facilities for rehabilitation services, to improve the nutrition status of children who are residing at the risk of JE and AES districts, to carry out intensified IEC and BCC activities regarding the JE and AES. Okay. So what are the strategies? The strategies are mainly to strengthen and expand the vaccination campaign. Okay. So subsequent to the major outbreak in Uttar Pradesh in 2005, what happened was the government of India introduced the JE vaccination with SA 1414-2. This is a strain they used, vaccine in a phased manner starting from 2006. So as per the government of India guidance, 2 doses of vaccine have been approved to be included in the universal immunization program. Okay. So one is given along with measles at the age of 9 months, and second along with the DPT booster at 16 to 24 months. So this is happening since April 2013. Okay. So next is strengthening of the public health activities. So this action plan it it wanted to have a community-based surveillance activities, entomological surveillance, vector control activities. IEC and BCC capacity building volunteers have been decided to implement in 60 priority districts. Next is vector control activities. Because of outdoor resting habits and crepuscular nature, the vector control using indoor residual spray is basically not feasible. So this vector, that is a Culex species, they mainly reside in the outdoors. So in addition to this, due to the vast and enormous breeding habitats like ponds, paddy fields, and other water bodies, larval control using various anti-larval measures is also not feasible. So what? So therefore, vector control using ultra low volume fogging is the only recommended method of vector control and can be used during the JE epidemics also. Okay. Ultra low volume fogging is the only recommended method and also supported by the personal protective measures should be done. So next is the disease surveillance activities. So surveillance will be carried out through sentinel sites and other health institutions. So sentinel surveillance sites with laboratory facilities, sentinel surveillance sites without laboratory facilities we have, and other informal units we have. Okay. So mainly they collect the information on the epidemiological clinical data, laboratory data, and entomological parameters from these identified sites on a regular basis. So what is a case definition for a Japanese encephalitis? Okay. So the suspected case. Acute onset of fever, which is not more than 5 to 7 days of duration. And patient should be having a change in the mental status with or without new onset of seizures. Okay. We should exclude the febrile seizures. And other early clinical findings may include irritability, somnolence, or abnormal behavior greater than that seen with usual febrile illnesses. This is a suspected case definition for Japanese encephalitis. So who is a probable case? Okay. Suspected case in close geographic or temporal relationship to a laboratory confirmed case of an AES or JE in an outbreak is called as a probable case. Okay. So who is an acute encephalitis syndrome patient due to other agent? A suspected case in which diagnostic testing is performed and an etiological agent other than this Japanese encephalitis is identified. Okay. Then we have a laboratory confirmed case. A suspected case with any of the following markers like presence of IgM antibody in the serum or CSF due to a specific virus, including the JE or enterovirus and others. Okay. Four-fold difference in IgG antibody titer in bad sera, virus isolation from brain tissues, antigen detection by immunofluorescence technique, and nucleic acid detection by PCR. So these are the definitions for laboratory confirmed case of JE or acute encephalitis syndrome. So how you are going to manage the cases? So basically, it's start from the supportive measures like adequate breathing and circulation maintenance, control of conversion if it is there, and manage the intracranial pressure if it is increased, control of fever, correction of electrolytes and nutrition supplementation, and general management supportive therapy should be given. And specifically, you should do investigation, sample collection, transportation, and most importantly, notify or report the case to the government. Okay, fine. Next is rehabilitation measures if it is required. Fine. So this is the protocol for management of acute encephalitis syndrome at the community level. Okay. So if there is fever, you give vigorous sponging and paracetamol is given. Convulsions is there, anticonvulsants, secretions, you do suction to clear the airways, and ill moral should patient kept. Okay. And these are the danger signs like lethargy, unconsciousness, convulsions, paralysis, rash, or hepatosplenomyelitis if it is associated. So mainly the patient should be referred to the first referral unit. Okay, first referral. The further danger sign like shock, patient is having low BP, okay, rapid pulse is there, and patient needs ventilatory support like issues, breathlessness, sinus, patient has sinus. So in that cases, you should refer the patient to a tertiary care hospital. Fine. So this is the management protocol. That's all about the Japanese encephalitis. So next comes the dengue and chikungunya. Okay. So this is one of the world's fastest growing vector-borne diseases, dengue. Nearly a 30-fold increase in disease incidence over the last 50 years. So imagine the burden and the spread of this disease. Okay. is an emerging serious public health concern. Is now endemic in nearly more than 100 countries. So an estimated nearly 15 million dengue infections worldwide annually, and about 50,000 people with dengue hemorrhage require hospitalization every year. So what is a long-term plan for prevention control of dengue? So these long-term strategies is mainly three-pronged approach. One is early case reporting and management, integrated vector management, and supporting interventions. So how you do early case reporting and management? So early case reporting is done by fever surveillance, sentinel surveillance sites with laboratory support, and strengthening the referral services, involvement of the private sector. So case management, you do the treatment for the cases, and epidemic preparedness and rapid response strategies should be done for the case management. So next prong is the integrated vector management. Okay. So integrated vector management mainly involves the entomological surveillance, including the larval surveys. Anti-larval measures include the source reduction, chemical larvicides, use of larvivorous fishes like Gambusias, Levistia reticularis, and environmental management or modification should be done. Next is anti-adult measures by means of indoor space spraying with pyrethrum extracts, fogging during the outbreaks, personal protective measures, protective clothing, and insecticide treated nets and fabrics should be used. And third prong is by using supportive interventions. Okay. Supportive interventions includes the human resource development through capacity building, behavior change communication, intersectoral coordination, operational research. Okay, to find out the technical difficulties or to improve the programmatic aspects, supervision and monitoring, coordination committees, and legislative support. So these are the supporting interventions for this program. So how they do the fever alert surveillance? So fever alert surveillance, by doing this, you can capture the suspected dengue outbreak even earlier. Okay. So this is done by ASHA, Anganwadi worker, and fever treatment depot trained persons. They will identify and report the fever cases. Okay. Fever syndrome will be reported to the district vector-borne disease control officer, and this should be shared with the district health mission, Rogi Kalyan Samiti, and village health sanitation committee. So we have some indices for the surveillance. Okay, these are the ones. Larval indices. We have house index, container index, Brito's index, and pupil index. So house index is of the number of houses inspected, how many number of houses are infested with the larvae. It's called as a house index. Okay. Container index is out of the total containers, how many containers are having the positive, positive breeding containers. That is called as container index. Brito's index is number of positive containers divided by number of houses inspected into 100 is called as Brito's index. Pupil index is number of pupae seen divided by the number of houses inspected into 100 is called as pupil index. So depending upon the potential for outbreak areas are divided into 4 categories. Category 1 is the record of death due to dengue confirmed case. Category 2 is the house index more than 5 and Brito index more than 20. Category 3 is house index less than 5 and Brito index less than 20. Category 4 is despite active search, no breeding site is found positive. So these are the categories of outbreak areas. So what is this integrated vector control approach for mosquito? So basically integrated vector control is a combination of 2 or 3 approaches or activities. Okay. So this includes, we can either combine anti-larval measures, anti-adult measures, along with personal protective measures and legislative controls. So what are the anti-larval measures? Environmental control, chemical control, biological control. Anti-adult measures include space sprays, residual sprays, and genetic control activities. Protection against mosquito bites includes the use of mosquito nets, screening, and use of repellents. So all these can be done. Legislatively, we have the civil class in order to avoid the potential breeding sites. So for the chemical control, we have adulticide and larvicides. So adulticides, we have pyrethrum sprays and also malathion fogging or ultra low volume fogging spray can be used. And for the larval control, we have something called as temifos. Okay, so these are the chemical control measures. So biological control, we have various fishes which eat the larvae as well as the pupae. Okay, so these are called as larvivorous fishes. One is called Gambusia aphelis and Lebister reticulatus. So these two fishes are recommended for the control of Aedes aegypti in large water bodies. Okay. Also, we have some bacteria like endotoxin producing bacteria, Bacillus thuringiensis phenotype H4D. They have been found to effectively control the mosquito breeding. And next is personal protective measures like mosquito nets. Nowadays we have the insecticide treated bed nets is available. Okay, screening the doors and windows with nets with excellent protection from the adult mosquitoes. Use of mosquito repellent creams, mosquito coils can be used, and wearing full sleeve clothes and covering most of the body parts against mosquito and fly bites. So that's all about today's topic. So this NBBDCP program mainly it covers diseases like malaria, filaria, Kala-Azar. Then we have Japanese encephalitis. Then we have dengue and chikungunya. So these are the diseases it covers under this program. Okay. So any doubts, please do ask me. Thank you.